All right, so today you're going to work through the formula on simple interest that you see at the top of the notes. It is I equals PRT, and we're going to go through some of these vocabulary words. So interest is the money owed after borrowing a principal amount the principal is the amount of money borrowed the annual interest rate. This is a percentage charged for money borrowed and the percent must be in decimal form. And then you have your time. This is the amount in years of time you borrowed the money. And so if it is not presented in years, let's say we present the problem in the amount of time in months, you have to change months over to years. All right, so in the very first problem, we were finding the simple interest for a principal borrowed amount of $200 and an interest rate of 7% charged, and this is over a 2-year time period. So when you write out the formula I equals PRT, you are just filling in the amount of principal, rate, and time to figure out your interest. So your principal here is $200. Your rate is going to change to 0.07 when you change it into decimal form. And then your time is already in years, so you're just putting in that 2 for your time. You're going to calculate that interest by multiplying 200 by 0.07 times 2. You get an interest, or I equals $28. And then to find your total, you're going to add your principal plus your interest. So for this particular problem, you're adding 228 together to get a total amount owed of 228. Going over to the next problem, you have an interest principal of $870. Your interest rate is going to change to 0.06. And your time is 9 months. So we have to change this over to years. So we know there are 12 months in a year. So that's 9/12. We know that 9/12 reduces to 3/4. If you want to change this to the decimal of 0.75, you can. That way, when you're multiplying, you can multiply back 870 times 0.06 times 0.75. And get 4365. When you get amounts like this, I would, and you're multiplying all those decimals, I would double back and check it and see. I got a different one. So 3915. I also like to say on your calculator, do that first multiplication, press the equal sign, do that second multiplication, press the equal sign, double check it. So 3915 add your principal and interest together, and you should get a total of $909.15. Going down to example number 3, we have a little bit bigger of a principal here. So that means we're going to have a bigger interest owed. So $15,000 for the principal. Remember, when we have a decimal percent, we're still going 2 places to the left. So that's 0.0335. Time is in years of 5. Again, check that in your calculator twice when you're typing that in. Make sure you're pressing that equal sign in between. So my interest on the first try, I got $2,512. Make sure 50 cents has that 0. Type that in again. Make sure you get that same answer again, which I did. And then you're going to add on that $15,000 principal to get a total of $17,512.50. Now, if you don't get asked to find the total and they're just getting asked to find the interest, you don't have to add back in that principal dollar amount. So the last one here is I equals PRT. We get a principal of $420,000. Again, that interest rate's already a decimal, but don't forget to move it back 2 spaces. Your time is still in years, so 15 years. So you're going to find the principal first, or the interest first. And you get a pretty large amount, $267,750. Remember, the bigger your principal is, the larger your interest is going to be, which means the larger amount of money you are going to owe in return after borrowing. So there's your 4 kind of common interest, principal times rate times time, simple interest problems. We're going to do one challenge problem together on the bottom. So Susie borrows $475 from her best friend. He wants to charge her 5% interest, and she would need to pay him back in 6 months. So we're going to find out this first. The key here is that you are borrowing in months. So you get I equals PRT. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Pause your video. Come back and check it. So you should have put in a principal of $475. Your interest rate would have changed to 0.05. And 6 months would have changed to the decimal 0.5, because 6 months is the fraction 6/12. So 1/2 or 0.5. And then you would have multiplied your 475 times your 0.05 times your 0.5, 6 months. Your interest should have been 11.875. You need to change this over and round it to 11.88 and add that to your 475, and your total should have been 486.88. So the challenge is, Sally would like to take a student loan out for $25,000. Her interest rate for the loan is 5.7%, and the amount of interest she has to pay is $6,412.50. So here we're talking about the interest that she pays. So we are unknowing of the principal amount, a little bit different than the first 5 problems. So that interest is going to go over in for I. You do not know your principal. You know your 5.7% interest rate. Change that still into a decimal, so 0.057. And you know that she's paying this back over do not know. Oh, sorry. Yes, you do know your principal. Sorry, I was reading it again. You don't know your time. Sorry about that. So your principal is going to go in here. Let's correct that. So $25,000. Change that highlight over here. That should be your time. All right, so again, to recap this, since I had those two switched, you know your interest, you know your principal, you know your rate, you do not know your time. So you're essentially here solving an equation. You need to multiply your 2 terms, $25,000, which is that principal, times your rate, 0.057. That goes down to 1,425 times T. Your interest is going to stay the same here on the left. To solve for t, we're going to divide by 1425. So your time in years, $6,412.50 divided by 1425 gives you 4.5, and we know time is in years, so we can label it 4.5 years. All right, so that is your notes. Make sure you're doing everything else in Canvas, including the check, and that is it.